So apparently 2026 is going to be year of the cover for me. This is something that has just revealed itself in the first few weeks of January 2026. So I'm now settled into the planners I'm hoping to stay in for the year, and I am going to go through what replaced what from last year to this year. Setting these all up made me feel like I was taking a family portrait, and these are kind of like a little version of family, and it ties into something I wanted to mention later on about how I feel about my little evolution. So I have here 2025 versions and the replacement 2026 versions. Just briefly, I've got a memory keeper, or what some people would call a journal, reflecting back on things. I have a purse carry that I take with me on the go. I have a work planner that I take, basically sits by my desk and is for a specific component of work. I have my ring binder with home planning. So this is my functional home planner, and then I have a 5-year diary. So I'm going to start with my work planner because this was my first ever purchase from Sterling Inc. I received it in 2024 and it was at the launch, so around September. And I had purchased it thinking that I would use it for work because that was kind of a low stakes but necessary area to use a planner. And I've used planners many, many years, but never stayed in one the whole year. And this is the first one since probably high school that I remember. I can't show so much about it, but this is an N1 tweed horizontal compact full year. And I was drawn to Sterling Inc. A few years ago when I had heard about the product, but especially 2024 when I had a year in fountain pens and was looking for something that would suit fountain pen use. So I started this actually in November, and I'm going to maybe be blurring out. I'm going to try and use my focus. I've tried so many different ways of trying to avoid private information being shown on the internet. So I'm going to try this today. I really liked this page because I tracked the time I was spending on this component of work, and it's filled out for the whole year. Even when there are blanks, that's just where I didn't have work to complete on it. So this is a snapshot of, and it's really, it does tell me where my work was heavy, where I had gaps, where the work wasn't required, or where I wasn't able to work. And yeah, I really liked this page. It was very useful. And because I was only tracking a number, it meant that it was easy to keep up with. This was very well loved. So this has been really good. I love it. And I love there is a texture on here. It's hard to describe, but I do really love that texture on here. Very satisfying. My kids are in the background, so excuse the noise if you hear them with my husband playing. This is my work planner for 2026. I did move away from Sterling Inc. only because I have a number of other products that I purchased for areas of my life that I love documenting and want to cherish. This, I wanted to try out a Maduri, and also, as you saw, I had a lot of blank space towards the end of the year in this planner because the projects dwindle. So I've just been stamping in the dates that I'm working on this project, which means that even when there's big gaps, like, over a week, 10 days, I can keep going by stamping in. There is a monthly view that I can also indicate items on here. So it's a very condensed version. I know I have this wax paper on the front just because I know I'm going to take it off. It's just, I thought I'd use it until it kind of gets too messy. But there's something very nostalgic to me about wax paper. So I associate it a little bit with, as a kid, my grandma would make cakes and wrap them in this kind of, it felt like this wax paper, and yeah, it had lots of happy memories. And I paired it with, this was a little floppy disk journal card that came with Cloth and Papers box, and I had purchased on Black Friday some items. So I thought they go well together, but it's just tucked in there. It's very loose. This sits on my desk. So yeah, this is just a very basic planner, but that's kind of what I want for work. It still takes fountain pen nicely, also a little thicker. I wanted to stay in the same book all year, so I was not really tempted to get out of this book, other than the N1 size is a little too narrow for me, and this is obviously still narrow, but because it's cut off, it feels a little less rectangular, and I'm not sure how that's going to work because I haven't had to take many notes, but I needed something smaller just because I was wasting spreads, and also I felt like I like this size better. I'm a B6 user. This is B6 Slim. So this is a Maduri MD Diary notebook. I think it's called MD Notebook Diary 2026, and B6 Slim size, and it has the ribbons, which is nice. So that's work. The next purchase I made in 2025 was this memory keeper. This is a B6 horizontal, so I went from this narrow size to the more pleasing size to me, the B series, which is more square and less narrow, and it's a full year because I was using it as a memory keeper and planned to journal more than the 120 pages that you get here. And I did journal more than 120 pages, but not the 356 or 7 that they include. So it's somewhere in the middle, but I didn't want to run out and go into 2 books. I didn't really have much choice in the covers, so I got the onyx, which I felt at the time a little sad that I had to get a black, but actually I love it. And with the gold edges, which have dwindled away with writing, but still you can just still see them, you know, when you're looking. This was used as a memory keeper, and I was excited to get this on November 18th. So you can see that that's when I received this on November 18th. I wrote about it, and I was hooked from then on in this memory keeper, and I used all year. And it's become so special. Just even looking back on some of these pages that I wrote from March, I kept up books that we were loving to read, that the girls were really loving. So that's what we used it for most of the year, the books that we were reading. It's not the only days we read, obviously we read every day, but and then there would be gaps where I just didn't fill it out. But that's what I was mostly recording until his August, let's see, September, still doing that. And then here I changed in October because I didn't want to do that for the following year, so I was trying to change it up and see. This is items that the girls were eating that I was surprised they had eaten for the first time and received well. Of course, that doesn't always predict future acceptance of food by toddlers, but that's where I was recording these, and I have a small amount of pages left, which I'm not going to pull out of here. I don't want to touch this book, but I use the very back for, this is my version of ink swatching. I don't do large little droplets or splotches. I just have the ink color, and then I write down the different nibs and how it looks. You can see some of them look so different, like this Purple Violet by Diatramentis. You can see the difference. Some of these samples were dilute. I try to take my ink sampling, after I've written out with it, and then I could see whether anything was bleeding through. This was not Sterling Ink's fault. Actually, this bled through on every paper I tried. Diatramentis makes some very wet inks, but you can see, the same ink will look so different in different pens. So that's really helpful to me because it helps me figure out what pens I like with what, and remind me if I've inked them before. So I've been keeping that up, but that's obviously in a 2025 planner. So I think I'll continue it. And then these were some stamps. I was trying out some new the Versa Chalk stamp pads, and I used my 5-year diary stamps just to see the different colors. So I've got a bit of transfer there, it looks like. This was a great planner. I love it. So I'm going to thank and excuse this one. And actually, I have mentioned before that I'm the weirdo that keeps all these things. I'm not using these clips again this year. Yeah, I'm this weirdo that keeps packaging, but I find it handy to be able to find what I've purchased and stored away. These clips were nice for using the planners as I did this year. I used this one bare, there was no cover on it. One thing that kept up my compliance though was using it in, it's going to sound strange, but I used to fill it out when my kids were taking bath time and they'd be both playing in the bath, and I would sit right by the bath and be journaling away, which is one of the reasons I use document ink and permanent waterproof ink. But that really helped me to keep compliant. And if you were just writing out this little section or this page, it would help a lot. This is my replacement for my memory keeper. It's my complete planner. I love it so much, and I'm really happy that I finally found this is the B6 Vertical 2026 Complete Common Planner in the charcoal. I love the fabric feel, and I haven't covered it in the clear cover. I put it inside an A5 or a Estelle cover. I'm just trying to remember what this is called. The Airy. It's the A5 Airy, AIREY, and this is the canvas style cover that I really like. I loved the color of it being light pink. I'm not actually normally a light pink person, and obviously the seashell would work much better in this cover, the Sterling Ink pink cover for this, but I bought the cover later, and this reminds me of the ballet color, so I love that color. It's a little less warm, but yeah, I think it's really pretty, and I'm just happy that I can take it into the bathroom still. I was trying to be precious with this, but it was either put a plastic cover, which I don't like the feel of plastic, or get it dirty, which I think just as a memory keeper, I feel weird if it was to get really damaged by water. And so I love how this cover has pen loops, 2 pen loops. You can convert it to a TN system. They provide straps, and it just has a lot of space for putting for storing things, and an expandable loop, which is really handy and part of the reason that I think it works with this thick complete planner. So I'm not going to go through too much on my complete planner because it's already something that I'm going through in this series, but just to say the verticals I'm still using the daily pages. I'm not writing it like a letter anymore. I love having everything all together so that my planner is creeping up. You know, the use is all in the front, and I don't have to be flipping it. I underestimated the value of that, and honestly I just bought the vertical to make it work because I loved the form factor being hardcover and having the closure and the ribbons and everything I love about planners. And then my daughter has been slowly filling in the monthly with the colouring drawing, and that's how I'm using that. You know, so I love that use of it much more than anything I used last year. So I mentioned the packaging. I'm going to thank and excuse these 2 Sterling Ink planners, the first 2 that I've stayed in all year. I do have the packages, so let me, that's how I'm going to archive these. So I meant to say this, I couldn't believe that this is imperfect, and I had to read this twice and make sure it's onyx. It's exactly this. I bought an imperfect planner. I have no idea what the imperfection was. It was perfect for me. So I'm going to pack this guy up. Thank and excuse my memory keeper for 2025. And I'll see you next time I want to look through you. There you go. This one, actually, I've got it in my 5-year box, 5-year diary, because I won't be using that. And my B6, the actual black box, I used for a gift that I had purchased, Sterling Ink, but there was an issue with the box, so I used my own old one. And then this guy is in here. Let's see. Is he this one? No. Yeah, that's it, horizontal. The box looks bigger than I expected. So you can see here it's imperfect. Also imperfect N1 horizontal compact tweed, 2025. So I had no memory of buying imperfect Okay, I'm going to thank and excuse my N1. And they're going to be replaced by these. So next thing that I purchased actually was this guy, my 5-year diary. So I used the same one last year. I've just changed it up a little. This was to get the shipping for free, and it was really inexpensive. I want to say this was, the area was, I think 65 or 70 US dollars, and then this was like 35, I think. I think I spent just over $100. And this is a B6. I like, again, that they have straps that you can use to convert it. It was a real guess. I wasn't sure if this would fit. It's got two pen loops that are partially elasticized. I love this scallop edge, and this is the other pink color that is the pebbled. I'm sorry, I can't remember. I'll have to put the names of them in the description. I think this was cake and sprinkles, and this was the really popular pink. I think it's the name of a flower, if I'm not forgetting. So 5-year diary, it's camel colored B6. I used this for maybe a hot minute when I first got it, because I loved the texture also, the pebbled, but I was too scared that if I was to damage a 5-year book that I would have to look at it for 5 years. I've shown this on the channel before. So basically I've done everything. I filled out every single entry here, and it's words that, it's little things that my kid says. Mostly at the start of the year, it was my oldest, who was a toddler still. Towards the end of the year, the baby started talking, so there's different quotes. So I used the same pen, and because it's quotes, I could backfill it relatively easily. The thing I do have pending is the end of year, end of month and start of month recaps, which I do little feet, little hands, and just talk about what their feet are doing in terms of movement, play, shoes, and then little hands, same thing, like activities. So I wanted to think about them a little more and give them a little more time. But I thought about, I'm a private person, but I love sharing the planners. I would not mind sharing as much, except that my kids' names are in the planners all through them, which is why I don't show as much. And I could use their initials, but I do love their names. And these are for them to read one day. So I would like to use their names. But the cover is making it a little different. This is a postcard from hometown, and this is the Laurel, Mississippi, one of the homes on the famous street there. And this planner, a calendar card that I have to sort out. So this one, I fit it into the front pocket, and it sits in there pretty nicely. If it didn't have the clear cover, it would be not poking out at all. It pokes out just by the clear cover. So it's a true B6 size for sterling ink at least. And it gives you all that room, so it's not pressing on the rings. And so I like that I could repurpose this. From what I understand, personal wide size inserts will also fit in a B6 by Aura Estelle comfortably. For 2026, I have all of my notes written out but haven't entered them in yet, because I was planning to change ink colors, and then I thought I'm going to change pens, and I was debating whether to use different pens for the two kids so that it makes it easy to distinguish. But that's one extra step that might affect compliance, and I really do want to complete this, especially these precious toddler years. So I'm going to instead use cursive, I've decided, for the older child, and use print for the younger child, just to make it easy in the moment. I'm often filling out a few days at a time, so I won't have to switch pens. And I love the pen I'm going to be using, and that was part of the problem. I didn't want to have permanent ink in the pen if I wasn't going to use it every day or regularly. So if I change pens for the different children and one of them happens to sit unused, I would be really sad if it's a piston fill fountain pen and it may damage the pen, if I leave it there. So I could see that happening. So I'm going to do that, and I'm taking a little bet that whoever reads this, at least on behalf of my older daughter, will be able to read cursive, but hopefully it inspires them to do that if they don't already read. Let's hope they do. I really want them to keep that up. So that's my 5-year, and I think you can see the difference in color there. It's just a little softer. I prefer this, I have to say. And then I've got my next purchase was, so far Sterling ink is, I lasted all year. This was my next purchase, my everyday carry. I purchased it in February, repurposed the back pages for collections, and I was in it all year until I switched into my 2026 planner, which started early, originally in this size. This actually went through different covers, so I don't have my traveler's cover, but I did have it in a traveler's passport cover, which was part of the reason I bought it in the first place. They went together, but it also was used bare because, again, it has a different texture. Again, the linen. This is a passport compact full year. One of the things I didn't like about this passport was, well, I bought the vertical. Why did I buy the vertical? I think I bought the vertical because the horizontal didn't give you a free page on each side. So the horizontal would go across, unlike the horizontal in this is the pocket. So the pocket has one free page and you get horizontals going down one side, but the passport size, because it's shorter, they have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or they use the full 2 pages. You don't get a free page. And I guess I thought that, I think this sidebar might have been the motivation that I would at least have this space to write extra notes. I think that was the reasoning. It could have been the cover. You can see I had to cut it to see if I could fit it inside this planner once I purchased this one during the year. And I really, wanted to stay in this. I used it just functionally. The back pages were used a lot. It was just really great to throw in my bag. And I've gone through already on this channel about having, I converted this pocket in the second week of January into a spiral so that it can fit on my cover that has a spike to insert a spiral. So I'm really enjoying this. It's much the same use. They're both very functional. And so I'm going to thank and excuse my passport, which served me well. It is a little sad saying goodbye to these guys. I'm sure they'll be coming out of the packs, despite having kept them. And this one was not an imperfect. This one was, I feel I was attracted by the color a lot, so that might have been part of it. But you can see this is not an imperfect. Yeah, I made it imperfect by cutting it. So let's see here. That's that guy. And then finally, I have my rings. Now, the rings replaced a lot of different planners. This is the one that I had trouble sticking to originally. And so this is my archive of, this is a cloth and paper fluted dashboard, and the cloth and paper little separate rings that you can use that they just open up. They just open like this. You open them up separately and I use it for archiving. I actually really love this dashboard, but it's very thick. And I've been using dashboards that I like to see. This is the Sterling Ink weekly dashboard that came with the inserts for 2026, and then I've just kept my, this is from February onwards. They're staying in here because I'm not carrying everything together at this time, and then I jumped into this system in October, so I have the last day that was blank that I might use if I'm using the last week of September this year. And then I also have the reverse side of this page that I had gotten up to in December, carries over into the last week of December in 2026 in case I want it. So I have more blank. This is an admin, insert weekly admin from Cloth and Paper. So I had bought a pack of that off. I actually got that on Amazon when I was first trying out Cloth and Paper. I don't find the paper, for me, takes my fountain pen, and it's thicker. The thickness doesn't bother me as much, but this was the insert. I don't care for the paper as much. And then these are some old dashboards that are the freebies from Sterling Ink that you get if you're in the newsletter. And I love the carousel. And then these are the old inserts that I have started to archive in the back. So that was 2025, and I jumped from a high tide planner in A6 size for home use, and then I went to a B5 Sterling Ink and a A5 Sterling Ink. The B5 was horizontal, the A5 was vertical, and that was the part 2. And they both helped me figure out what I don't want in terms of size or format, but I loved when Sterling Ink released their inserts. As you can see, I jumped in early, so that's what I have for 2026. I have January in here, and I prefer having this. This is a Cloth and Paper divider. This was their schedule, and I think there's 3: finance, schedule, and it's got the white writing. Let's see here, finance and notes, I think, is the last one. See, I think I put it in a funny order so that it's not quite. Here's the notes, I think. Yeah, notes and lists. So I like being able to see the artwork instead of obscuring it. And then I'm using this. I don't have a monthly. That's one downfall of my system. I've been trying to DIY it because I want my monthly on one page so that I can open this up. I have my monthly, and then I go straight into my weekly. And I have kind of set up a format where my weekly is one page. I only use the right side of the page, and then the reverse side is for lists. So I am trying that out in January. I'm not sure if I will keep that up. And then I have February ready to go. I already did complete the February monthly, but the problem is partly that because I'm putting this on the back here, I kind of wait till they release this is as far as they've gone for releasing the freebie, which is obviously a freebie. I can't be demanding anything, and I'm so grateful that they release that. But also I could pre-print them and do the little tip in that I did here where it's glued in and opens up. But I haven't sat down and done that because I'm not sure if I'm committing to that. Here I've got finance. I use the weekly admin. I use the weekly admin inserts just to track some payments that I make, and then I've got all my notes in here. And then there's a page lifter in the back. I have one page of the vintage stickers and address book that just make whoever owned this before me. I like to think that they didn't go out to drinks very much, but they used the I think they did a lot of travel. I remember thinking that they'd used up a lot of they'd used some airplanes, and anyway, it's kind of fun to see. I haven't used any of the stickers, but it reminds me that this pre-owned planner had a life of its own before I got it. I really love this one. The only sad thing I have is that it sits at home, and I think it's really nice to take out, but I use it for home use, so it hasn't had a reason to go out. But I've already kind of excused my home set, so that's my system. I didn't use the word ecosystem, and I know that it's got different meanings for different people. For me, I feel like there's this, if I use the concept of a family, and you've got like and like. So you've got, you know, all the individuals in a family all together. Obviously, we do affect each other. If you know, mum's in a bad mood, then it's going to affect dad potentially, or you know, the kids, or you know, vice versa. But I feel like we are our own little unit amongst many other family units that are all different, like all the planner little families that we have in our planner community, all the different planner families. And then the community is really the ecosystem that I think of. So the community is affected by each of those individual families, but it's made up of, you know, businesses and, you know, schools and parks and so many things, animals, they all make up our community. And so to say that this little family unit is an ecosystem, I think for me feels like it's not the right use of it. And I don't know if I'm even using the correct analogy. I just, you know, have family on the mind, obviously. And in the same sense, I think these concepts of planet peace are maybe unrealistic for me, because I like to think that, you know, the planner is a relationship. I often feel like at the start of the year, I'm dating a new planner and it's all new and I'm trying to figure it out and they're trying to figure me out, maybe. Probably sound like a crazy person. But I think that you don't aspire necessarily to peace in all relationships. You know, you have ups and downs, but you want to stick with them. So in that sense, I was proud of my planner monogamy with my work planner, my memory keeper, and once I got this late in the year, I stuck with it. So I think that had a pretty good run, the passport. So I think sticking with something when it's, you know, you can have ups and downs. It doesn't have to be complete planner peace to be a success. At the same time, there are some relationships that you do decide you need a break or you need to step back, and that's when you get rid of, you know, I didn't have the right system for home, so that planner had to go on a break. And actually I recently dusted off the B5 and I am excited for what I'm using it for already this year. So non-planner use, but yeah, it's just an evolution. So on that note, I will end this video that's probably gotten quite long. Thank you if you're still watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.